My name is Christine Daigle. I'm the director of the Posthumanism Research Institute at Brock University. And I have been asked to share my perspective on the power and critical creative potential of the posthumanities. And to do that, I want to start with unpacking the terms posthumanism and posthumanities. Posthumanism is all the rage. The term gets tossed around quite a bit, and sometimes there are important misunderstandings about what it refers to. First, it's important to distinguish posthumanism and transhumanism, which champions all forms of enhancement of the human via cyborgs and prosthetics, for example, and even seeks to upload consciousness into silicon-based systems in order to augment and or quite radically abandon the fallible material bodies that we are and the natural world in which we exist. By contrast, critical posthumanism and the material feminism that I adhere to seeks to embrace anew the material body, even if it may be fallible at times. This does not entail rejecting our interactions and various entanglements with technology and artificial intelligence, but rather it deals with that as yet other instances of our material entanglements. The post of posthumanism that is mistakenly used to refer to transhumanism is a literal move beyond the human itself in an effort to leave it behind. The post of critical posthumanism, however, refers to modes of conceptualizing the human and the world that move beyond the humanist concept of the human, not the human itself. Unpacking the prefix post and questioning what it refers to allows for understanding what posthumanism stands for and also for grasping its method, which is based in the critique it inherits. Now, as proponents of a theoretical discourse that challenges and rejects humanism, so quite literally a post-humanism, posthumanist thinkers are the heirs of important philosophical lineages that represent various posts, such as deconstruction, post-structuralism, monistic philosophies of life, and others. Those lineages emphasize the necessity to criticize and dismantle the dualisms and binaries at the core of humanism. Humanism distinguishes strictly between mind and body, human and non-human, living and non-living, self and other. Deconstruction and post-structuralist philosophy criticize these categories and dualisms. In addition, feminist and post-colonial discourses have also contributed to the challenge of the humanist subject by explaining how a certain conception of the human, typically as cisgendered, heterosexual, able-bodied, white, and male, has served as the anchor point of regimes of oppression. They call for a reconceptualization of the human to include groups that have been historically othered due to their sex, gender, race, and etc. Some feminist thinkers who also work in critical animal studies push this further and challenge the strict distinctions that are posited between human and non-human animals. What all these theorists are doing is pointing to how such categories and distinctions are dubious at best. They are post modes of thinking in that they reject the conception of the subject to move beyond it. Even without the prefix that would be embedded in its name, feminism is a post too. It is post-patriarchy. The feminist focus on the body and materiality allows for accounting for sexual difference and different embodied experiences that the focus on the disembodied mind of anthropocentric humanism, or rather androcentric humanism, did not allow for. The subject of posthumanism is post-human in the sense that it is a post-humanist human. It is still human, but not in a humanist sense. The sophisticated posthumanist critique dismantles the humanist construct and proposes instead a dynamic, fluctuating subject that is perpetually done and undone through its various entanglements, but never entirely done away with. In this sense, it is the direct heir of the various posts that precedes it, that is, post-patriarchy, post-colonialism, and post-structuralism. This amounts to a rejection of the humanist subject, who is the sole autonomous agent and posits that the human subject is an entangled being that is subject to other agencies as much as it is the subject as author of its own actions. Now, this is not a rejection of the subject or agency, but a radical reconceptualization. I share a posthumanist material feminist approach that reconceptualizes the human as radically entangled and embedded. The human is not an exceptional being. It is a material being permeated true and true by the other beings with which it shares the world just as much as it permeates them. It is an assemblage of beings, think of the microbiome, for example, that is also part of various assemblages, such as the ecosystem it lives in, the cities and countries it lives in, etc., etc. My favorite quote to capture this is from Stacy Alaimo. She says, "The human is always the very stuff of the messy, contingent, emergent mix of the material world." Our bodies have permeable boundaries, such as the skin, mucous surfaces, and orifices. And these make us porous beings that are speared by the materiality surrounding us at the same time we seep into that materiality. Posthumanist material feminists also posit that agency is not the prerogative of the human. Indeed, all life has agentic capacity, and often this capacity is much greater than that of the human. Think of microbes or forest fires, for example. By turning its attention to materiality and interconnectivity in the way it does, posthumanist material feminism seeks to undermine the dichotomous relation between subject and object, between the human and the non-human, by demonstrating that all beings partake in the radical entanglement of matter. This is made possible by the critique posthumanism inherits and exacerbates. The movement beyond humanism opens conceptual avenues that provide a rich, dynamic, and unfolding flat ontological plane in which no being takes precedence over others. Now we come to posthumanities. The humanities have been permeated by a humanist conceptualization of the human and has perpetuated the idea that it is exceptional, that it is separate from other beings, and that it has the right to exploit them for its own thriving. The studies, such as gender studies, postcolonial studies, queer studies, etc., the studies have initiated a critique of the human subject that is the object of study of the humanities. As such, they have paved the way for posthumanities. The post of posthumanities operates in the same way as the post of posthumanism does. The posthumanities picked up not only on the theoretical critique launched by the studies, but also on championing alternative ways to produce knowledge and new thinking. The posthumanities are also post-humanities in that there is a need to leave the traditional disciplinary organization of the humanities behind. Posthumanism must be an interdisciplinarism. Posthumanism is rhizomatic thinking par excellence that refuses to let itself be confined within disciplinary boundaries. As a new mode of conceptualizing ourselves and the world, it requires that we move beyond the rigid confines of the humanities and that we build links and connections among and through the disciplines. It is interesting that one of the images I found while searching for the term interdisciplinary, that you see on the top left, resembles that of a rhizome as depicted right below it. Disciplinary discourses have been challenged and destabilized by the studies, and we need to continue to push for the emergence of thinking that happens in between, across, and through. Thinking about concepts, theories, and perspectives that we have inherited, and questioning them, challenging them, interrogating what they stand for, so that we may develop new modes of thinking. This means developing a manifold of ways of thinking, developing and communicating ideas that is unified by a methodological stance that seeks to do things differently. There is still space for traditional scholarly approaches, such as the conference paper, the article, and the monograph, but pursuing other means of developing knowledge and sharing that knowledge, such as cartographies, creative work, unconferences, collaborative work, dialogues, etc., will open a space for reconceptualizing ourselves, as is the aim of posthumanist material feminism and the posthumanities. In some ways, there is not one method, but one stance permeating our diverse methods. The movement beyond humanism and beyond the humanities opens conceptual avenues that allow for the rhizomatic thinking of posthumanism to unfold. Thank you for your attention. I welcome any feedback you may have. My email address is on the last slide, and I hope you have a great event. I wish I was with you, and I hope to be engaging with you soon.